is what's in store as members of the city council in Chattanooga weigh a proposal that is controlled. Well, it's not really controlled by Chip Henderson, who's pushing the plan, but it's controlled by a piece of paper, and that piece of paper has a special name, and that is the map. The map controls. If you have a map, you control. It's an interesting subject to look into, how, say, Germany prior to World War I looked at the nations around it and had maps showing that Germany was surrounded by enemies, that Germany had threats left and right. World War II, prior to that war, you can see on the internet, on websites that deal with cartography, how maps were arranged to show enemies around Germany then too, and to suggest to the viewer of the map that Germany didn't have enough breathing room, didn't have enough Lebensraum, as it was called at the time. And so in light of that need, there had to be an imperial conquest toward the west, toward Belgium and France and Holland, and then finally in a suicidal, militarily suicidal step, an onward march eastward in Operation Barbarossa, which of course was the ill-fated disaster in a war against the Soviet Union, from which after the siege of Leningrad, only about 20,000 Germans survived. They were imprisoned, and a few thousand survived that disaster in Stalingrad, I should say. And maps tell people what to do. They also, because they look at the world, as you might say, as God might look at the world, they infuse the viewer with a type of power, a sense of control, a sense of being able to move chess pieces, as you might say, around to delineate what's ours and what's not ours, where we need to go, suggesting that all around us are threats or opportunities, right? Depending on how you want to view your enterprise. If you're a nation state with a national capital, you might view these surrounding countries and borders as things to cross, right? Things to push out of your way with your armored columns and your bomber squadrons. Now, we're not suggesting, of course, that city council has any military interest. It does not at all. It's entirely peaceful, entirely pacific. And yet, the fact that there's a map that Chip Henderson obtained from the regional planning agency with its overlay zones suggests that we have to do something, right? Because there's a map of Chattanooga and its voting districts and its zoning districts, because there's a map, we in the city council who have say on how lands are used, how properties are used through the zoning controls, we now have to regulate the new threat. And that is, I think, how the city council, because it has a map, views Airbnb. Airbnb, and allied, maybe you could say, and competitors online, a system that lets homeowners create a revenue stream from their houses, that creates in them a desire to use their houses, say when they're not there, when they're on vacation, when the owners of that house or the occupants of that house are not there. Maybe people have houses here and they have the house just for a summer visit, and so they let those houses out to other members of the network, other members of the Airbnb network, who are all rated, who are all vetted, and who become experienced. They all build records as either sellers of space, rental space, or users of rental space in private dwellings all around the world. This phenomenon in the sharing economy, the future economy, is developing. And here now we have a Chattanooga City Council, and because the council members think that they have this map and that they have to control things in this map, they have only one choice. Well, they have actually two choices. And let me ask you, do you think these two choices are the right way to frame the issue of taxing and regulating homeowners, of whom there are probably more than 500 in the city limits, homeowners who are making a new use of their properties, and that is by being part of the profitable relationship that they have with Airbnb, the network provider, the server holder that creates that allows relationships to be created among strangers, right? A sharing economy, strangers coming here, say from Germany, from Jakarta, maybe someone from Pretoria coming to visit the United States, and they're going to be in Chattanooga for 5 days on business and pleasure, and they don't want to be in a hotel. They go to Airbnb. So this is a relationship that's all voluntary and free. And yet, because Council Member Chip Henderson and others are looking at the map, Russell Gilbert, Jerry Mitchell, and others quoted today in Chattanooga.com, they think they have to do something, right? And the choice is this. Here's the choice that they have. And is it a real choice? Well, I want to suggest that it's not a real choice. There is a choice that's not included on the map, okay? It's a choice that's not a map choice. You see, if you have a map, suddenly the question is, where do the lines go, right? Because that's what maps are. Maps are lines and gradations of colors, dark red, light red, blue, purple, green, whatever the colors are. Those colors indicate a jurisdiction and an area of control, a zone, right? A zone that's commercial, a zone that's residential, a zone that's heavy industrial, a zone that is light industrial and commercial. And you have these 4 more gradations in the zoning scheme. And because we have that scheme, that is how we have to look at this new activity. Is the old scheme fitting for the new activity? Is the legacy system of zoning, which we have to understand is anti-competitive and raises prices and costs, is that scheme fitting for the new economy? Are we not a new economy city? I'd like to think that we might be.
And Charlie wrote a very eloquent piece about conservatism and how Trump just isn't one.
Is this paradigm of the regulated economy, is it appropriate to apply it to the zoning, to the control, if you will, of Airbnb families? Now, I say families, and I say that because there's another category of people who own homes which are available for lease, and those would be investors. That could include someone say in Phoenix who has rental properties here, buying land and buying houses and having a management company to keep them up and renting them out, again, through Airbnb. It's an investment possibility. It creates revenue streams using a piece of capital, a house, which does not otherwise produce a value, and creating a revenue stream based on that. So the idea, the danger, if you will, is that you might have alien owners not in Chattanooga, owning the house and renting it out and never coming here, not living here, and then owning another house in the next neighborhood, and then another 2, maybe a couple of miles away over the hill. And here they are owning houses, not living here, and being part of the Airbnb network. And of course, having a management company to rent and oversee the rentals, doing the cleanup, checking whether there's damage and so on to a piece of property after an Airbnb member leaves after his visit. And so there is that, of course, as well. But again, these are owners, and the owner of a piece of property, a house with its gables and fences and trees, that owner who lives there is no better an owner and no worse an owner than the one who is remote, right? There's no evil in being remote. Even though we are lococentric and nugacentric and trying to care about the physicality and presence and place, the power of place, even though we do claim those things here on the David Tulis Show, I would not dream of thinking that somehow an absentee owner is a lesser owner and has a lesser right than the man or the woman who lives here and is part of the Airbnb network. So what do you think? This is a question, and we are at 800-8949, 800-8949. The tyranny of maps. If you have a map, you think that somehow it's yours. And you're mistaken to think that, because while God owns all things, right? God owns every creature, every man, every woman, and is their creator. And he owns the earth and the fruit of the ground and the cattle on the hills. They are his. Nonetheless, he distributes to people ownership of property and lets them use it provisionally as stewards. And we take his perspective somehow, I think maybe mistakenly, as we look at the map, and we think, okay, well, this district will have in the zone, and that district will have outside. In Chattanooga.com, there's a brief story about this. It says that Jerry Mitchell may move to include Stewart Heights in the zone, and Chip Henderson added all of his home section in Lookout Valley. And Darren Ledford said he's concerned about the high cost of enforcing the rules. Anthony Bird speaks favorably about the rentals in that story. And one more. Yes, Stuart Gilbert pulled his entire District 5. Okay, so Stuart Gilbert is saying, no, if you're in my district, you're not going to be able to freely have Airbnb. And Demetrius Coonrod said Glenwood does not want in. So people in Glenwood, an old-fashioned, old-style neighborhood, very gracious place, a genteel part of town, have members there, residents there, have told her they don't want to be included. What they're saying to Demetrius Coonrod is, well, we here in Glenwood, we don't want our neighbors to do something. We don't want our neighbors to have a revenue stream, and we don't want people who are here just for a few days to be in our neighborhood. We don't want them here. This is very inhospitable, if you ask me, and it seems to fly against the reason people live in cities in the first place. Why do people live in cities? Well, they live in cities because they want to be around new things. They want to meet new people. They want to have strange and unusual circumstances. They like the crowd. They like diversity, right? People move to cities to be among a diverse group. Because in diversity, there is always opportunity, right? You have new ideas, new people, new prospects, new markets, new services that you can provide, new services that you can obtain that you couldn't if you were living alone on a long stretch of rural road, right? In the wilderness, or some people want to say in the wasteland of rural Tennessee. They live here because they want to be around people, and they want the stimulus of being in society. That's what cities are why they're so enriching. That's why culture is to be had in cities. In cities, you have culture in the mix, in the throng, in the crowd. Far from the madding crowd, one does not wish to be. One wishes to be in the madding crowd and part of it, and making the most of its many opportunities. The idea of having a map and saying, well, my people in my district are not going to be in this district for Airbnb, and those will. Now, again, there you have something that seems entirely capricious and arbitrary, and that flies. And here we have a danger of law in Tennessee required to meet the reasonableness standard. The opposite of the reasonableness standard in law is arbitrary and capricious. And any one homeowner can say, how is it that I am not included? And it's entirely capricious, because a few people said something to a council member. That council member says, well, I'm going to keep my district free of Airbnb, or I'm going to keep my district in Airbnb. Either way, it's arbitrary and capricious. It is incomprehensible that it could be just to anyone. Though some people, of course, will say, well, it doesn't really affect me, so I don't care. I want to be indifferent. But in the end, to have a district, have a map, and say, as a council member, I'm going to have this group of people in the district and that group out. Now, you might ask me, well, what's the problem with being outside the district? Well, if you're outside the district, you cannot legally be part of Airbnb's network. What you have to do to be legal, right? To be legal, you have to appeal for commercial zoning. You're in residential zoning, and to be an Airbnb dad or mom or renter, you have to appeal. Now, if you try to do that, you will face a firestorm of opposition, again, from neighbors who want to control your property. Again, neighbors who want to use force to, as they see, preserve their own value, right? To preserve their property value. And why? Well, if a house is zoned for commercial, it's possible that someone could raise that house and put a gas station there, raise that house and put a 7-Eleven or an apartment complex, maybe a small office tower, and that would ruin the neighborhood, so the neighbors say. And so they gang up on the person taking the initiative to rezone. And what happens then in rezoning conflicts is that it's drawn out, it's expensive, lawyers have to be hired, experts have to be hired, there has to be an expert civil engineer, civil planner who comes in to testify before the planning commission or before ultimately the city council to say this is a good thing, or this won't affect traffic, or this really doesn't affect the character of the neighborhood, or that it does, right? Either way, you have a dispute. You have a dispute over the use of force against the person who is seeking the rezoning request. Either way, whether the person wins the rezoning request or not, the question is, can you use force against me? This is David Tulis, and we here at Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM and 1240 AM, we argue for the marketplace, and that's my goal here. The writer with the longest pen in Chattanooga, the tallest pen, if you will, that's a 180-foot tower, radio tower, emitting powerful 1,000 watts of amplified modulation across the landscape and through the ground, right? My signal goes underground. It travels in the ground, a remarkable development. Now, if you're just joining me and wanted to hear what I had to say, make sure you go to Chattanoogan.com, at Chattanoogan.com, and John Wilson just posted my argument that you just missed. Okay, you missed the argument. Joining us here at Nooga Radio, the David Tulis Show, every day at 9 o'clock, every day as you are going into work. And the headline is that the Airbnb proposal stands on a false premise. And the argument that you need to make, you, my listener, need to make to your city council member is this: we are the gig city. We are an open city. We believe in the internet. We have, in fact, the fastest internet speeds. Why do we want to have fast internet speeds if we intend to slow everything down to inject molasses into the stream of the electron? That's what we're doing. We're saying, we only can have so much of the gig city. We need to slow everything down. We need to clog everything up. We, on city council, we, the municipal corporation of Chattanooga, don't want to have that much speed. We're getting dizzy. We're a little bit old, right? We're a little bit doddering as a council, and we want to slow it down. We've got to have some way of regulating this activity. There's potential for danger in this activity, we think. There is something of juvenoia in the effort to regulate Airbnb. Juvenoia is something I've been told about by my 14-year-old son. Juvenoia is the phenomenon of people of your generation. Let's say you, my listener, are in your late 40s, maybe your early 50s. And juvenoia is when you talk about young people today and how they're wasting their lives, how they're becoming drones by looking at their screens, how they have no utility, how their prospects have dimmed from your time, right? How the things that they do are very dangerous and unusual, and that we need to restrain this activity. That is juvenoia. Fear of juveniles, fear of youth, fear of freedom. And I've heard that at home. I've heard that from my youngest son, 14, homeschool kid, who thinks he's smart. He's trying to be the smartest man in Chattanooga, as I am alleged to be. But, I'm the smartest person only in one narrow category, and that is the category of men who wear bow ties. I'm the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga. That leaves room for you. You don't wear bow ties, so there's a chance for you, my listener, here at Nooga Radio, especially if you tune in faithfully just for a few minutes every day, of becoming the smartest man in Chattanooga in your own domain, in your own dominion, here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County and beyond. I do welcome, of course, listeners from afar passing through on their regular runs through Chattanooga. My ideas are not trademarked. You may take anything I say and apply it to your town. And my argument here is called Noogacentrism. I am the leading Noogacentrist of Chattanooga, the local economy guru, David Tulis. David Tulis, the guru of local economy and the free market. And that's why I argue today. Check out what I have to say at Chattanoogan.com. That's Chattanoogan.com in opinion. And I'm arguing for liberty and freedom. Let us not be juvenoia obsessed. Let us not fear that the young economy, the new economy, the gig economy is somehow going to endanger us. That somehow, if we don't crack down on Airbnb, that we'll be victims. Somehow the city is going to decline. Property values will decline. Strangers will be in our streets. Visitors will come to Chattanooga. And, they won't be downtown in the hotel district or over in East Ridge in the hotel district. They'll be in our neighborhoods. Do we really want to have visitors in our neighborhoods? Oh, no. Visitors from afar in our neighborhoods? Do we really want that? That's dangerous. That's dangerous. Listen, We need to not regulate Airbnb. The city council needs to put the map away, take it back down to John Bridge and say, thanks for letting us use this. We're done. We're going to let the people decide. We're going to let the people be free. We're not going to bother them.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
The body of a missing teenager has been found at the bottom of the Sale Creek Bluff. The 15-year-old went missing last night, Tuesday, and was found Wednesday morning. Detectives on scene investigating the circumstances of the death. A man in Brainerd says that a man ran up to him on Sunday and put a gun to his head and robbed him of $800 out of his pockets. He says the man then pointed a gun at the head of his stepdaughter and demanded yet more money. The victim was able to push the robber away, and he escaped in a black Dodge Magnum with a blue racing stripe. That vehicle found by police and pulled over. Lacey Sharkey arrested. The FBI is investigating a case involving a Chattanooga police officer, Brian Moody III, who was under an internal affairs investigation and placed on administrative leave with pay last month. And a few days later, he resigned. County Mayor Jim Coppinger says he's doing all he can to prevent property tax increases. The county's right now dealing with $56.6 million in new spending requests. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
After this briefly mild start, quickly heating up again for your Wednesday with some sunshine. Hazy as well, a little breezy too. Highs upper 80s to near 90 tonight. Lows only 64 to 67. For Thursday and Friday, continued very warm and humid. Any spotty showers few and far between. Highs upper 80s. Make your lawn and garden look great all summer long with Glass Farm Nursery, featuring all sorts of colors, from flats, hanging baskets to trees and shrubs. That's Glass Farm, Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm S'mores 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree. Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM, and 95.3 HD4. News, talk, sports. Nooga Radio.
When my brother and I opened the first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300-plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets.
Choose Exit Realty Scenic City. Need to sell your house? Want to buy another house? Choose Exit Realty Scenic City. Our goals are simple. If you're selling, we get you the best price possible in the quickest amount of time with the least amount of hassle. Our agents are professional, competent, and courteous. We stay in touch every step of the way. If you're buying, we make sure you get all the information necessary to choose the right house in the right location at the best price. Exit Realty is one of the fastest growing real estate companies in North America. Our agents have extensive training, state-of-the-art technology, and full support that allows us to do the best job possible for you. If you're in the market to buy or sell, call us today, 423-551-EXIT. That's 423-551-3948. If you're an agent or considering a career in real estate, call us today. See what Exit Realty can do for you. No desk fees, residual income, technology to the max, and people first. Call us today, 551-EXIT. That's 551-3948. We're located at 7610 Hamilton Park Drive, just off the Bonnie Oaks exit.
Need a tiller to get things going for the spring? Spiff up your porch, maybe your deck? Come on by and get a pressure washer at Action Rental. Family in town, need some tables and chairs for an event? Come on by and see us. Action Rental. This is Dan at Action Rental on Lee Highway. Come by and see me. Action Rentals.
Final expenses, funeral cost, cemetery lots, unpaid medical bills, probate cost, debts. Debts are due and payable upon death of debtor. Will these costs produce a burden and hardship on your loved ones? Who will be responsible? How will they handle them? These costs can total many thousands of dollars, only compounded greater with the grief of losing a family member. A safe and secure way to provide for these costs is with an affordable life insurance from Covenant Group Insurance and Financial Services. Covenant Group is a local company with local agents. Covenant Group still makes house calls. Covenant Group only represents A-rated companies. With many options to offer, Covenant Group can accommodate almost any budget. Great discounts for good health and plans available for impaired risk. Call today for a free, no-obligation consultation in the convenience of your home. Call Steve or Jada at 423-855-8484. Call today, 423-855-8484.
I've got a $10 bill for you at the best paint store in Chattanooga. David here. Big savings in exterior stains. Chattanooga Paint and Decorating. More than a paint store. Bring up $100 on your next upgrade. Plunk down just $90. Save on all outdoor stains in stock at Chattanooga Paint and Decorating. Prolix Sickens. Benjamin Moore, Flood, Sanson, Richards. 10% off through May 13th. Jim and his team are here to help and advise and to help you hold on to your money. 5529 Hickson Pike. Chattanooga Paint and Decorating. ChattanoogaPaint.com.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Tulis.
This is David Tulis, and we cover local economy and the free market here in Chattanooga and beyond. We argue that you should love your neighbor and buy local, and be loco-centric, be Nooga-centric. I have a question now about an important field. There are more people renting than before, and there are prospects for you, my listener, and perhaps you, my listener's teenage son or daughter who's leaving home soon and thinking about careers, of going into the field of managing apartment complexes, dealing with people who rent in these growing number of complexes around the country. On the phone with me from Alexandria, Virginia, is Stephanie Prier-Helling. She works for Greystar, which is the largest apartment management company in the country, and she's also president of the National Apartment Association's Education Institute. So she has agreed to come on and chat with me about this field. Sort of as an educational tip for you and you, my listener, and your children. Stephanie, what is the trend generally for rentals across the United States, maybe with some reference to Tennessee?
Sure. Thanks for having me, David. So there are really two driving forces behind the trend of the growing number of renters. And as we all remember, the housing crisis really challenged the American dream, so much so that 11 million more people rent apartment homes today than just a decade ago. And secondly, we're seeing that people's desires for the way they want to live is changing. All types of people, millennials, baby boomers, empty nesters, are choosing apartment home living as a lifestyle choice. And they're doing that primarily because they're looking for more work-life balance. But in addition to being closer to work, they're also wanting to have better walkability to their leisure activities, such as restaurants, retail, and entertainment. And people are also looking for a worry-free lifestyle. They want maintenance-free living and concierge services, such as package delivery, valet trash pickup, and dry cleaning, 24-hour fitness centers, and personal trainers that rival some of the best, private gyms out there, just to name a few. I actually lived and worked downtown when I was in college, and I absolutely loved it and could walk everywhere. And, now I'm in suburbia, but I'll be an empty nester in a little less than a decade. And I'm really looking forward to selling my home and, living and working downtown again. I'm a little jealous of the people who get to do that right now.
Well, the Wall Street Journal in the past day or two, Stephanie Prier-Helling, had a story about co-living, and management companies and investors are looking at the trend for tiny apartments that are so small they're effectively rooms. And the story said that the people who want to live in these places, it's as if they're living on a cruise ship. They have just one cabin, if you will. Some have very tiny toilets, and then others don't. But co-living is a trend. Is that something that requires people to work in that field to manage that as well? What do you know about that trend?
We have seen that trend happening, the micro apartments, and that's something that's changing as well. But I think your analogy is a great one, right? It's like having a cabin on a cruise ship, and then everything around you, that's really where you're spending your time. And in the apartment home, you're going there to sleep, and then you're out enjoying all of the great activities that are available within your community. So I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about the job opportunities available within the industry as well.
Go ahead. We want to hear more about that.
Awesome. So when I talk about this industry, people are usually surprised to learn that careers in property management offer higher than average salaries than comparable industries, with great benefits, opportunities for advancement, and an enjoyable teamwork environment. And while a college degree is not required, we partner with over 41 universities and community colleges nationally who offer some sort of program in residential property management or apartment maintenance. And oftentimes it leads to industry internships, multiple job offers, and a jump start to their careers. It's really not just for college students. As I mentioned, you don't need a degree. This industry is also a really great fit for people looking to change careers, military spouses and veterans, to name a few.
Well, how do they connect with this line of work, Stephanie?
So, one of our sayings in the industry is we hire for attitude and we train for skill. So if a person is great with people, apartment careers are built on providing great customer service. And there's also a lot of teamwork and variety. We have a website, rpmcareers.org, that stands for Residential Property Management Careers, rpmcareers.org, which is really the front door to our industry to learn more about the available jobs. And on the website, we offer tools for job seekers. We also have a career launcher program, which matches candidates with available jobs, provides free on-the-job training so you can actually test it out, and oftentimes can lead to a full-time position within the industry with a great company.
Well, this is David Tulis. Thanks for joining us for a few minutes here. We are at AM 1240 and FM 92.7 Nooga Radio, covering local economy and the free markets, and we're talking with Stephanie Prier-Helling. She works for Greystar, the largest apartment management company in the country, and she's also on the side president of the National Apartment Association's Education Institute. And part of that, part of her job there is to explain what the career field is in apartment management. Now, let me ask you about this. Apartment complexes are revenue streams, and they're being bought up around the country by large investment groups connected with you might say, speculative investing and the financialization of the economy. There are fewer local owners of apartment complexes. How does that trend affect employment in your field?
Well, apartment communities and their 38 million residents contribute more than $1.3 trillion annually to the U.S. economy. And that also means that there's more than 12 million jobs, not just in apartment management, but in construction, operations, leasing, maintenance, and skilled trades. And don't forget about the local businesses that are supported by those neighborhood apartment communities and the millions who live in apartment homes. The U.S. Department of Labor estimates that over 11,000 new property management jobs are created by this industry every year. So it's a great opportunity, not only for real estate investors, but those looking to start a career in the apartment industry.
Well, Stephanie Prier-Helling, thank you very much for joining my listener me here at Nooga Radio. Glad you could come on.
Thanks for having me.
This is David Tulis, and we've been talking about the career field of apartment management. There are all kinds of jobs available, and Stephanie Prier-Helling says that if you go to rpmcareers.org, that's rpmcareers.org, you can learn more about you yourself, my listener, maybe changing careers or directing one of your children, maybe a college student, maybe a coming graduate from high school, looking into that field for career prospect. This is David Tulis. We argue that you should love your neighbor and buy local. I'm the man with the bow tie, said to be the smartest man with a bow tie, but that's a very small group of people. Bow ties are making a comeback, but I don't think they'll ever be the dominant form of neckwear. And who cares about neckwear anyway? You know, men wear ties to hide their bobbing Adam's apple if they talk a lot. And since I'm your host here, I do quite a bit of that in the morning. And I'm glad for the exercise of that vital organ, the Adam's apple, covered by my bow tie, which you'll look at the bow tie wings and not look at the knot in the middle, covering the knot in the neck. Does that sound appetizing? Not really. But here we are And I'm glad you're giving me a couple minutes of your time. We're brought to you by Boyd Speedway. Boyd Speedway, just south of the border, where every Saturday evening, uproarious hot dog, car engine oil, smoke, roar, speed, glinting chrome are thrown at you at the racing events at Boyd Speedway of a Saturday night. And also, we're brought to you by Window Depot of Chattanooga. Window Depot of Chattanooga. I make an argument that I admit is wonderfully weak. It's wonderfully weak. It has no force at all. And now when I say force, what I mean is it's an argument that doesn't bowl you over and compel you. Okay, it's one that you have to kind of almost strain to see it. It's not going to knock you to your knees, okay, in submission. No, it really works in a different way. It's a kind of persuasion. A slow and gentle persuasion is my labor here at the David Tulis Show every morning at 9 o'clock. Make sure that you tune in. We're brought to you by Nooganomics.com, the website for the man who matters, Nooganomics.com, and find out about the low carb manna offered by Franklin Graham. A couple days ago now, a couple nights ago, low carb, low nutritional value, but it's GMO free. I'd say it's GMO free manna from Franklin Graham, who spoke, the son of Billy Graham, the famous evangelist, who spoke in Chattanooga a couple of evenings ago. Read my analysis about that plate of spiritual food given to the hungry faithful here in Chattanooga, and you'll find that only at Nooganomics.com, mixing a sound biblical perspective with a free market analysis. And we go in deep on these topics. We go in very, very deep, but not too long, right? Nothing is too long. Nothing is too much overburden for you, my listener. I argue in the short form here that near is better than far, that small is better than big, and that simple is better than complex. And, you know, the good people in Washington who have brought us the police state and unconstitutional surveillance and a fragmentation and disintegration of a national spirit, they and their allies, their fellow travelers in the universities, would argue in the footnotes against me, and there too, on that level at 5-point type, probably Helvetica font, so it's easy to read, 5-point type. I argue against them and declare that personal is better than corporate and that physical is better than abstract. Brought to you by Nooganomics.com. That's Nooganomics.com. Make sure you go to Chattanoogan.com this morning, the ferociously independent media platform, and hear about an effort to wreck the gig city. The gig city is about to be wrecked. And the spirit of the gig city, I should say, is about to come under the juvenoia of city council. It seems to me that every member of the city council is affected by juvenoia. And that juvenoia is fear of the juvenile, right? Fear of the young, fear of the new, fear of the innovator, fear of the paradigm shifting, the non-paradigmatic entry, say, into a marketplace. And that entry, well, I tell you what, if you've just now tuned in, you'll have to go to Chattanoogan.com to find out more about that. There is something mysterious afoot in the city council. It is a kind of disease, in which the legacy system of municipal corporate government is looking upon the innovator and saying, we need to have a map. And we need to look at that map from the regional planning agency. And because we have a map, we have to do something. In fact, the fact that you have a map impels you to do something. Having a map means that this belongs to us. This is our city. We are city councilmen, and we have to do something because it's on the map. Look, it's here. You see these districts? And you see the nice plastic overlay from the planning agency. We can move things around. We have control. That is the danger. And you call it the map trap. You can call it juvenoia. Chip Henderson and the other city council people are not thinking far enough ahead. In fact, it seems in the initial reporting about this that there's a trajectory toward control of something that's free. a desire to possess and take a proprietary interest in something that's free. This is not good. Is it good? Well, maybe after some important announcements in just a couple minutes, we can make the case for the ending of the gig city. Should I argue for the gig city to be over? Should I make that argument? I'll tell you what, you can make the argument for me. If you want to make that argument, just try 800-8949, 800-8949, 800-8949. Red Bank, according to Chattanooga.com, is looking and has passed on second reading. Gail Perry is reporting here a design review ordinance that she says is let's see. It says, with the increase of commercial development, design standards are needed. The story, quoting Mayor John Roberts, are needed to guide the city's appearance as it grows. Well, we can't leave self-interest to work here. We've got to have a rule. Elements in the ordinance include exterior building materials. Okay, they're gonna treat every owner of property as a child. We will have to give some controls now about building facades. Facade design, of course, is mentioned. Landscaping, trees, areas for parking, sidewalks, and signage, among other things, Gail Perry reports. The purpose of the ordinance is not only to improve the appearance of the city, but also to raise property values. And the meeting was on the 2nd of May, and there was that was the first reading, and then the second reading, it was approved unanimously on the second and final reading. So that's something that's going to be a hit, and it really bothers the lover of liberty and the lover of prosperity. Prosperity doesn't come when people who don't own property control it, right? In principle, the fewer exterior claims using force and power that there are on a piece of property, whether it's a service, a product, a gadget, a piece of software, a piece of land, a building, the fewer external hands that operate upon that property by force, the more prosperous that property will be. And I would suggest that if you have a city government that is constantly trying to improve things, constantly trying to raise values, that you're going to have less prosperity overall. Thrive 2055 says that by 2025 or so, they're going to be 40,000 is how many more people in the area. It's a huge number of people are projected to be coming here. Well, what is going to bring them here? They're going to come here only if we make ourselves attractive. Only, I would like to suggest, if we live up to the name Gig City. Now, Gig City is, in a way, it's just kind of laughable. The whole gig system is one that is really just marketing. The Gig City and lightning fast speeds work only as fast as the tightest choke point in a line of data between any 2 points. So if you have something far away and there's one choke point that is between, then the data is going to be slowed down by that choke point or points that retard the speed of the electrons. So you can have in our county a hugely fast system, but if outside choke areas exist, those points, those constrictions in the pipeline will reduce the speed overall. So again, we're talking about milliseconds here, but if you have a large volume of data, that matters. Gig City is overcapacity. It is a government-funded overcapacity, a kind of a digital bridge to nowhere, and yet we have it, and that's part of our marketing. And no doubt there are some benefits to it. My son, the 14-year-old, is convincing me that we should jump from AT&T to EPB. And he's just about convinced me because I'll be saving over the course of a year. And I said, look, son, try to present your proposal to shift in terms of what I can do with the money saved per year. If it's $220, say, well, Dad, you and Mom can go to a bed and breakfast for the weekend on that money. And so, make it physical, make it visible that there's a benefit to switching from AT&T to EPB from our house. I reside in Saudi Daisy on a hilltop. And so he's saying, well, we should join him. Well, the digital city does exist, and the gig city is perhaps mostly marketing, though there are some advantages, as my son says, in the speed of delivery. And not that I do much online myself. I do a lot of reading. No, in my house, we're not watching 16 movies at once, right? In which case, if we were, we might want to have super high speed. We can't meet the capacity that we're paying for. And probably very, very few people have that kind of need. But let's just getting back to the idea of gig city, assuming that we are the gig city and assuming that it means something, let's not hamper it. Let's not restrain it by regulation, by looking at the map, having not just one ankle, but both ankles in the map trap, saying, here we have a map. Now we need to look at the city and divide out, really in a way that's arbitrary and capricious. Divide out which areas are free from the zoning requirement and which areas we'll put into this new district which will require all Airbnb people to enter on their knees before the city, paying fines, fees, opening themselves to inspection, entering into a commercial relationship, and being subject to us in city government. That's not the kind of relationship I think that we want to have, that we want to continue. We've had it through zoning. Zoning has become a dead hand, a mort main, if you will. Dead hand in French, the mort main, the dead hand. Zoning is a dead hand. In fact, the planning commission and the city council agreed to change the form of the dead hand and reshape it, if you will, into the form-based coding scheme, which is certainly an improvement, but doesn't change the fundamental fact that you've got dirty water coming out of the pipe, and changing the flow isn't going to really improve this. This is David Tulis, 800-8949, 800-8949.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader, Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
iBuyChattanoogaHouses.com, Chattanooga's premier house buyer. Do you have a house you need to sell fast? We are buying. Call us today. We are local folks. We will buy your house as is, no repairs needed. We will give you a cash offer and close on the day of your choice. Call us right now, 423-834-7321. Need to sell a house fast? We are buying. Are you experiencing one of these situations? Inherited a house you have no need for? Behind on your property taxes? Nightmare tenants making your life miserable? Too many repairs needed and don't have a desire to fix? Behind on payments and facing foreclosure? Recently divorced and need a way out of the house? Never really wanted to be a landlord and just want to cash out? Trying to relocate and need to sell your house? Do you need to sell a house fast? We are buying. No fees, no hassles, no repair cost. Close on the day of your choice. Our process is simple. Call us today. We inspect your property right away. We make you a fair cash offer. We close on the day of your choice. Call us today, 423-834-7321. Visit our website, iBuyChattanoogaHouses.com. Call us today, 423-834-7321. iBuyChattanoogaHouses.com.
Need windows? Hey folks, do you need new windows? Good news. Window Depot of Chattanooga has a great special going on right now. 10 high-quality, energy-efficient double-hung vinyl windows installed for only $29.90. That's right, 10 double-hung vinyl windows, only $2,990. And yes, they qualify for the TVA rebates. Call 894-0011. Window Depot of Chattanooga today, located at 5950 Shalford Road. Call 894-0011 today.
He stole out so much cash, such a huge mountain of cash, that he's become a national star. Rick Davis, you know the story. Cash, 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 and more cash. People can't believe it. They want to see it. And now Rick Davis has a new TV show. National TV, USA and Canada. He's got the gold and silver, diamonds and rings. You get dizzy just thinking about it. Rick's selling. Rick's buying. Cash, 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 and more cash. And now a mountain of cash catching the Hollywood spotlight. You know where it is. Brainerd Road, Rick Davis, Golden Diamonds. Cash, 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 and national TV cash. That's really big. Everyone wants to see it. Money flying out the door. Rick Davis is America's jeweler. It's better than Hollywood. It's right here. Cash, 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 and more cash. Rick Davis, Golden Diamonds, Brainerd Road.
You love me. You really love me.
Are you shovel ready to build a house, but you're not a builder? Are you shovel ready? Michael's Homes is ready to bulldoze its way to a solution for you. You have ideas on what you want in a house, but you're looking for someone to bring your ideas into a plan and turn your plan into a house. Michael's Homes, custom builder. Michael's Homes has lots available at a new subdivision, River Bay Estates, that's Harrison. Maybe River Watch in Saudi Daisy. Choices galore, lots, houses, beautiful homes all over Chattanooga. The Canyons, Hickson, Crystal Brook, Appleton. Drive in, take a look, consult with us. We build on your lot or ours. Homes-Chattanooga.com.
Call 423-413-9929.
It is Eric Jones hard into the outside wall, and they are still 3 and 4 wide. It looks like we're racing at Talladega.
Caution flag is out. It looked like Denny Hamlin was trying to get by Ricky Stenhouse. Got into the back of Ricky at the line. Man, that's a close one. Matt Kenseth wins stage 1.
Green checkered flag is out, and Brad Keselowski has won stage 2.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. into the wall. That will bring out the caution. Caution waving once again. And again, it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. involved.
Oh, trouble. Ty Dillon has gotten turned to the inside of the racetrack, and Clint Boyer has just nailed him.
Matt Kenseth falling back, the field storming by. Something wrong. Now we see sparks from Kenseth's Toyota.
Larson chops him off, coming off turn number 2, nose to tail. Now it's Logano to the high side in 3.
Joey Logano, a winner here at the Richmond International Raceway. Here at Live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM.
The voice of NASCAR. WBLZ HD4 Ottawa. W224AZ Chattanooga. WSDT Saudi Daisy Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedefane. Members of Congress, Republicans and Democrats alike, are demanding a full accounting of a White House meeting between the president and then FBI Director James Comey. According to a memo Comey reportedly wrote after the meeting, the president asked him to end an investigation of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Democratic Senator Tim Kaine says that could be obstruction of justice.
We need to hear from the director and from the president with all notes and tapes we can get.
CBS's Nancy Cordes has the latest on those notes and tapes.
The chairman of the House Oversight Committee has sent a letter to the acting head of the FBI, giving the FBI a week to turn over this Comey memo and any other documents related to the president's alleged attempts to pressure Comey into dropping the Flynn investigation.
Vladimir Putin has a low opinion of American politicians. The Russian president says elected officials whipping up anti-Russia sentiment are either stupid, dangerous, or unscrupulous. And Putin offered a transcript of his foreign minister's meeting with President Trump as proof the president did not divulge classified information. North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis says he's doing well and itching to get back to work after collapsing during a 3-mile road race in Washington earlier this morning. A woman who was there says it was scary.
By the time the ambulance got there, they were doing CPR. He was having a seizure. One guy came, he was like, lift his feet up. You have to move him to the side now.
Army Private Chelsea Manning has been released from prison in Kansas after serving 7 years for giving military secrets to WikiLeaks. Attorney Chase Strangio says Manning has been thinking about the future.
Her priority is to get out safely and be able to speak for herself and tell her own story.
Manning tweeted that she plans to move to Maryland. An Air Canada passenger is facing criminal charges for acting up on a flight bound for Toronto. CBS's Vicky Barker has that.
The Air Canada flight had left Jamaica bound for Toronto when authorities say a passenger became aggressive. The federal criminal complaint alleges he attacked crew members with a coffee pot and lunged for a rear door of the aircraft, saying it would only take one guy to take the plane down. He was pulling the lever when crew members and passengers managed to tackle him and tie him up. The flight made an emergency landing in Orlando Monday night. tonight. Vicki Barker, CBS News.
Ford Motor Company has officially notified workers it plans to cut 1,400 jobs. Automotive reporter Jeff Gilbert.
Ford says this will be a voluntary program with buyouts and early retirements. Manufacturing workers aren't included. Neither are those in IT and product development.
People working on it say about a dozen Republican governors are crafting their own plan to replace former President Obama's health care law. A jury in Tulsa is scheduled to hear closing arguments in the manslaughter trial of white policewoman Betty Jo Shelby. She's charged in the fatal shooting of an unarmed black man. In early Wall Street trading, the Dow Industrials are down 238 points. This is CBS News.
Finding great candidates to hire can be, well, like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter is different. It doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them. With its powerful technology, ZipRecruiter distributes your job everywhere it needs to be to find the right candidates. In fact, over 80% of jobs on ZipRecruiter get a qualified candidate in just one day. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, only ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
Used by businesses of all sizes, ZipRecruiter offers the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now you can try ZipRecruiter free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/start. That's ZipRecruiter.com/start for your free trial. ZipRecruiter.com/start.
A new study takes a look at do-it-yourself abortions. CBS News correspondent Jim Hannity.
Abortions done at home with online help and pills sent by mail appear to be as safe as those done at a clinic. That's according to a study of 1,000 Irish women who used a website run by a Dutch nonprofit that provides advice and pills to women seeking early abortions in countries where abortion is restricted. 95% of the women in the study reported successfully ending their pregnancies. Less than 10% reported any complications. Jim Hannity, CBS News.
Almost 2 decades on the run have ended for a man wanted for a murder in Alabama in 1996. Donovan Johnson was awaiting trial when he escaped in 1998. Authorities say Johnson was arrested last Friday in Chicago, where he'd been living under an assumed name. A tip led to Johnson's arrest. He's been returned to Alabama to stand trial. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
The body of a missing teenager has been found at the bottom of the Sale Creek Bluff. The 15-year-old went missing last night, Tuesday, and was found Wednesday morning. Detectives on scene investigating the circumstances of the death. A man in Brainerd says that a man ran up to him on Sunday and put a gun to his head and robbed him of $800 out of his pockets. He says the man then pointed a gun at the head of his stepdaughter and demanded yet more money. The victim was able to push the robber away, and he escaped in a black Dodge Magnum with a blue racing stripe. That vehicle found by police and pulled over. Lacey Sharkey arrested. The FBI is investigating a case involving a Chattanooga police officer, Brian Moody III, who was under an internal affairs investigation and placed on administrative leave with pay last month. And a few days later, he resigned. County Mayor Jim Coppinger says he's doing all he can to prevent property tax increases. The county's right now dealing with $56.6 million in new spending requests. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
After this briefly mild start, quickly heating up again for your Wednesday with some sunshine. Hazy as well, a little breezy too. Highs upper 80s to near 90 tonight. Lows only 64 to 67. For Thursday and Friday, continued very warm and humid. Any spotty showers few and far between. Highs upper 80s. Make your lawn and garden look great all summer long with Glass Farm Nursery, featuring all sorts of colors, from flats, hanging baskets to trees and shrubs. That's Glass Farm, Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm Smorteen 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Tulis.
A point that I think Franklin Graham really hasn't thought about is that the gospel story of God's relationship with mankind is probably tellable in 7 words. And those would be something like from judgment to redemption, right? From that is a picture, of course, of progress, from decadence to prosperity, from pain and suffering and destitution to delivery, to happiness, to fulfillment. That is the course of progress, right? We believe in progress. Now, the problem with Christianity, though, especially in this part of the world, is that it does not have a theory of progress. It does not believe in progress. In fact, because it has followed the teachings of J.N. Darby, whose works began to appear in the late 1700s, there is no optimism at all. Christianity has been drained of its world-changing, even you could say its world-conquering premise. I don't like the word conquering because that implies compulsion, force, destruction. And Christianity is not that. It really is not about force and destruction. It is about an alternative plan, an alternative theory of bringing the nations to peace, of bringing deliverance to the oppressed, bringing wealth to the poor by service to others. That's in a nutshell the economic tracings of the gospel story. The gospel is about, of course, redemption of individuals and redemption of nations. It's a picture of large scale reform on one hand and intimate personal reform on the other. Both have to work together. One, personal reform, personal repentance, you might say, submitting oneself to God, is a reformation of the individual, right? He becomes self-governing. And necessarily connected with that, as Franklin Graham, I think, sometimes doesn't really think about, there is a national reformation as well, as individuals by the dozens, by the blocks, by the cities full, by counties full, right? Over time, reform themselves, reform their institutions, bring about a lawful, equitable society. Now, your liberal wing of the church thinks that is to be done by the state, right? Through the state, through socialism, we have finally the equitable realms arrived at by statute, by redistribution schemes. It is a fantasy, and socialism, as is Marxism, is a heresy. It's a Christian heresy to think that God uses the sword and the users of the sword, the wielders of the sword, to bring about things that really are the fruits of grace. He doesn't work that way, and humankind doesn't work that way. And yet still we have, even in Chattanooga, we have the left wing of the church thinking if we just have more FDIC, not FDIC, but if we have more AFDC, aid to families with dependent children, spending will finally have heaven on earth. We'll finally arrive there in the promised land. But that is not how it works. Force does not work. The shift from Adam, you might say, to the last day, when there is a promise of a largely healed human society, then Christ will return. That is the picture of the gospel. And Franklin Graham doesn't see it that way, though. He does not. He is a dissenter from the general tradition of Christianity, which is highly optimistic, and which has, it's part of its fundamental fruit and in its basis, right, in its heart, in the gospel and in Christianity, the system of government and life, which is called Christianity. There you have a vast enterprise that's increasingly prosperous and increasingly free, right? Why is it freer? Why would Franklin Graham hope that it could be freer? Evidently, he hopes that it will be, because he says we have to pray for congressmen, we have to pray for presidents, and he says the nation is broken and its soul is destroyed, and the people are in a bad state, following as they do homosexuality, right? Lug baptism, the queer theory, following as they do abortion and pornography and alcoholism and drug addiction. We have our opioid crisis now. I mean, this is an amazing self-destructive crisis the urge to mass self-destruction. That is evident all around. So we living as we do in a post-modern era. The promise of Christianity and the promise really of the marketplace, which is a fruit of it, is toward progress. It is gaining on the whole. There is progress. But now I say all these things, even though I have a bleak economic prognosis. My analysis of the pending economic meltdown is one, I view that as an opportunity. Okay, we face a disaster ahead, a financial cataclysm ahead in stages, but very violent stages that you could describe as a loss of confidence and a loss of faith. Faith, fidelity is connected with faith. These undergird our whole economy. We don't have an economy of substance. We have an economy of dreams and hopes and promises and faith. Faith in national institutions such as the Federal Reserve System and the president, right? The president and Congress, even though the Congress has in its lowest ebb ever in the polls, there is an implied faith in its coherence, in its salvific powers, right? It can save us, right? It can save us from the disaster that we have brought upon ourselves with our foreign genocides and our internal genocides that afflict the poor and the ignorant more than anybody else. Well, so what is Franklin Graham missing? Franklin Graham is missing the optimism in Christianity, which, of course, for people who don't have faith in God, they look in terms of the market, right? They look at the world in terms of the freedom of the market and free market capitalism, which is the fruit of Christianity, right? There has to be the underlying religion before there could be the cultural fruit, and culture, as R.J. Rushdoony points out, culture is simply religion externalized. It is religion externalized, right? It is on the outside of your life. All the things that you're seeing is a fruit of some group or some person's religious idea. His idea of who God is or what God is, where things come from, why things here, the reason for things being as they are. These are religious ideas, right? They're religious ideas. They're not science. They're not from the physical realm. They are about an ultimate cause and ultimate frameworks. Philosophy, you could say. The philosophical or religious systems are very closely aligned. They're similar in their areas of claim. But culture is religion externalized, and there is progress ahead. And I want why does David Tulis have only 2 hours a day? He's going to complain to management. He has only 2 hours a day, and he's just feeling like he's constrained by these segments and are important commercial announcements. But the United States of America, in many ways, is the enemy of local economy and the free market. And I dwell on that part of the analysis that you're concerned about, and not to expand your use of that analysis and your interest in national affairs, but to reduce it. All right. If I mention the national crisis, I don't do that so that you will spend more time thinking about it. I'm trying to do that so you'll spend less time thinking about it. If our argument really is that we should love our neighbor and buy local, well, so too should the energy we give to thinking about President Trump and the Comey investigation. All these things that are very, very important. No doubt they are very important, but we can't concern ourselves too much with them because we can't affect them, right? We can't hinder or advance any of those things, and being obsessed by them is a kind of distraction. And I would like to suggest that the United States of America needs to be riffed. It needs to have a reduction in force. Now, people are fired at government agencies rarely, but when they are, they're riffed, right? There's a reduction in force. That means a reduction in manpower. But reduction in force is something that has other ways of being described as well. And here's I like to break things down in a simple chart. Okay, you have a line down the middle of your page. On one side, you have the state. Okay, the state's over here, and if you're viewing us on YouTube, and then on the right side, there is society. We have the state versus society. we're going to have a better local economy in Hamilton County and Chattanooga. And if you're from a faraway place, you'll have a better future. Your children will have a more prosperous, less burdened future, less occasions where men impose power on other men, right? That's essentially what I'm trying to say. If we have a local economy theory, I'd say that Franklin Graham is right in his fundamental premise of course, submission to God. That's where freedom is to be found, and that is what he proposes. He proposes that people who are without God confess to God and become godly, right? They become Christians. They become men and women saved from their sins by repentance and belief in the Lord Jesus. That's the main argument that Franklin Graham brought to Chattanooga, speaking to a cadre of Christians, between 2,000 and 6,000 of them at Coolidge Park. He urged them all to become Christians, right? They were almost all of them were Christians, and there he was urging them to become Christians. Well, that's, you might say, kind of a misaimed arrow, and maybe there were one or two people who had some glimmerings of repentance in their hearts, but by and large, they were almost all believers. Judging by how many waved their hand during one of the songs from the Afters group that played, appealing as they do to emotion, most of those people in that crowd were believers, practicing Christians. Now, but getting back to his overall premise is right. If we have Christianity in the hearts of individuals, we'll have it eventually in society. But how it transfers from individuals into society is the thing that Franklin Graham has ignored. He has studiously ignored that. And as his father has, preaching making the same argument to the individual person with a privatized view and a privatized framework of his convictions. In my mind, Christianity is about the entire society. Christianity does of course start with the individual, but the fruit of Christianity is in larger society. In this reduction in force that I'm mentioning, that is possible if there is a belief in God and God's blessings are restored, right? He's withdrawn his hand of blessing and has brought us a hand of judgment. And I don't think that Franklin Graham framed it that way. He doesn't say these are judgments. He just says that the things that are besetting American society are sins. They are sins, but when they become institutionalized, such as queer theory, it is a judgment, right? It is a confusion injected in that case into the law. When we have a freer future, what we have are peace, we have contract, we have market. Again, think of the chart now. On one side, you've got society. That's on the right side, and there you have peace, contract, market. It's voluntary. There's trade and commerce. That is. And of course, there's liberty of the church. That's society. Okay. On the other side of the column, right, on the left side, we have the state. Well, how does the state work? Think about John Whitehead, the constitutional attorney in Charlottesville, Virginia, and some of his work. He makes a very powerful argument about the warfare economy against the American people. It's not. It's pretextually against terrorists, right? It's pretextually against instability, right? It's pretextually against insecurity, and yet that system is disintegrating. Well, okay, back to my chart. Okay, down one side under the state, you have the following: you have threat, war, invasion, prisons, you have fear, and you have distrust. So the state has one mechanism, again, summarized in the use of one man lording it over another man. That's it. In shorthand, humanism and a rejection of God gives you that as a judgment, you could say as a corrective, as something that destroys the ungodly and destroys those who pretend to be godly, to pretend to be Christian, but who really aren't, who have their whole being invested in the machine. Again, that's threat and war and invasion and prisons and courts, penal systems, fear and distrust. That's what the state uses. It operates on those mechanisms and imposes, as Whitehead suggests, a reign of terror. Where did that malware come from that we heard about this? It is an American government project. Why malware is saved up and secured and built by taxpayers, as we said. Of course, no, taxpayers are not necessary at all for the operation of the national power. It operates on borrowed Federal Reserve credits and nothing more. On one side, again, threat, war, invasion, prison, fear, distrust. And on the other side of the column, the marketplace, local economy, and the free market, you have the voluntary society. You have peace, right? You have contract, which is to say people agreeing to serve each other, one with a payment, prompt payment, and the other with a service or a good, right? That's contract. That's also the word market implies this kind of relationship, horizontality, horizontal, equitable relationships, and the blessings of courts that enforce contract. That's what courts are for. They are to assign the death penalty to the guilty, and then all others. If there's not death required for a crime, then there is restitution. That also enforced by courts. Again, I'm describing here what the scriptures give us. Right? There is no prison system in God's law. That it just doesn't exist. Prison systems are human innovations. That's kind of the best we can do, right? Keeping a man the military man in jail, in prison for 20 years because he crossed into the state of New York with magazines with a capacity of 11 or more bullets, right? That at its best. On our side, on the local economy side, here with David Tulis and Nooga Radio, live on Facebook, live on YouTube. We have peace, contract, market, and then again, the idea is voluntary society, in where people agree to do things together. They agree in charity, right? There's no compulsory charity. They agree to help each other. If there's a small businessman struggling, he's not put out of business by a larger competitor using a state regulator or filing a secret report to a state regulator about the challenger. No, they work together. They one helps the other. Competition is not unto death. Competition is friendly and cooperative. But of course, it is always trying to provide a better good at a lower price. That's the shorthand definition of competition. And trade also is part of that free society. And that's what Christianity promises. The promise of Christianity is from judgment to restoration, right? From judgment, God's anger against mankind in the fall, right, to a progressive improvement in the human condition over time. That requires the idea of conviction in progress, which American Christians don't have, and it also, but the evidence of it is very clear. Think for a second in the Christian system there. Christianity says that before Christ, all tongues, all tribes, all nations, all peoples were lost, right? Everyone was lost except the narrow group of humanity, generation after generation, through the children of Israel. That was the only group of people that were blessed. Everybody else was judged into eternal damnation. That's what Christianity teaches. Without Christ, without God's favor, no man could approach him, right? No man in this life could please him. No man could in this life make himself right with God, come to right terms with God, and then be accepted into heaven upon death. That was not part of the human condition. But with Christ and the resurrection and the bringing in of what were called at the time Gentiles, now every nation and every tribe and every tongue is open to the receipt of this blessing, which brings to humankind the marketplace, brings to humankind the arts, right? Brings to humankind the university, and medical innovations. That brings science. Where did science come from? It came from the Reformation, the Protestant Reformation, which threw off the shackles of Roman, the hegemony, the control of Rome, and brought to mankind the spirit of inquiry. Why would anybody in the 1500s believe in science? Why would anyone want to pursue the operation, the study of the operation of single cells in the drops of water? Well, because they knew that it was God's creation and that things all worked in harmony. All things work together. Even though there's death, even though there's aging, there are things that die and rot. Even so, there is a coherence in the world of creation. And that's why science rose in the 1500s. Just read on that Stanley Jackie, the Roman Catholic historian of science. He has some very good books that came out in the 1970s describing that process. So Chattanooga is part of that story. Chattanooga, whether you believe in God or not, it is you're part of that story. And what you have to hope for is that in that group of people that identify themselves, that self-identify, right, as Christians, there will be a growing sense of the larger claims of their own religious ideals upon society at large. That's where I think Franklin Graham fell short on Monday. David Tulis.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
The body of a missing teenager has been found at the bottom of the Sale Creek Bluff. The 15-year-old went missing last night, Tuesday, and was found Wednesday morning. Detectives on scene investigating the circumstances of the death. A man in Brainerd says that a man ran up to him on Sunday and put a gun to his head and robbed him of $800 out of his pockets. He says the man then pointed a gun at the head of his stepdaughter and demanded yet more money. The victim was able to push the robber away, and he escaped in a black Dodge Magnum with a blue racing stripe. That vehicle found by police and pulled over. Lacey Sharkey arrested. The FBI is investigating a case involving a Chattanooga police officer, Brian Moody III, who was under an internal affairs investigation and placed on administrative leave with pay last month. And a few days later, he resigned. County Mayor Jim Coppinger says he's doing all he can to prevent property tax increases. The county is right now dealing with $56.6 million in new spending requests. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
After this briefly mild start, quickly heating up again for your Wednesday with some sunshine. Hazy as well, a little breezy too. Highs upper 80s to near 90 tonight. Lows only 64 to 67. For Thursday and Friday, continued very warm and humid. Any spotty showers few and far between. Highs upper 80s. Make your lawn and garden look great all summer long with Glass Farm Nursery, featuring all sorts of colors, from flats, hanging baskets to trees and shrubs. That's Glass Farm, Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm S'mores 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Have the best steak selection in town. Name of the business is Don's Meat Shop, and I'm Donnie Raines. Just ask for Donnie. I make over 20 different types of sausages. Most of them are great for grilling. We have the best selection, best quality. We have the hard-to-find items. Don's Meat Shop.
Window Depot of Chattanooga. They're locally owned and operated and been around since 2008, installing top quality vinyl replacement windows. You get the best price and service in the area. Top quality double pane, energy efficient windows. They look great and save you money.
Oh, I love to save money.
You'll also save money on your heating and cooling costs. Call 894-0011. 894-0011. WindowDepotChattanooga.com. WindowDepotChattanooga.com. Sales and installation professionals. You'll get a fantastic job while helping to enhance the value, appearance, comfort, and efficiency of your most valuable asset, your home. Other window providers? No way. Window Depot Chattanooga's windows qualify for the TVA rebate. Sliding doors, gutters, soffits, fascia, garage doors, and other home improvements. If you want to save a ton, call 894-0011. WindowDepotChattanooga.com. WindowDepotChattanooga.com. Window Depot of Chattanooga. Sales and installation professionals.
And now to our reporter in the field.
We asked Ray at Ray's Plumbing what's important for homeowners to know.
Some field line systems can cost upwards of $10,000. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road. I would definitely recommend everybody with a septic that is not on county or city sewer to have an inspection done by a qualified professional. It'd be great if nobody did inspections on them for all plumbing companies. That's what we do to make a living. Not to scare anyone, but it should be in the back of your mind. The danger is the field lines failing and costing thousands upon thousands of dollars and tearing your yard up. By preventative maintenance, you're saving yourself a large headache that may displace yourself and your family. That happens more often than you think. The waste is designed to stay in the tank, and that waste will build up over time. Even with treatment, we have to help that waste break down. Ultimately, preventative maintenance is the key that will keep you from spending $5,000 to $10,000 on replacing your septic system. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road.
Call Ray at Ray's Plumbing, 421-6341, 421-6341.
Competent, kind, caring, knowledgeable, experienced, great listener, great negotiator, in touch, accessible. If these are the characteristics you want and need in a realtor, you want and need Thomas DeMoss of Keller Williams Realty. Thomas is a very gifted realtor who puts the client's needs first. Whether you're buying or selling a home, Thomas is the realtor of choice. Thomas will help and guide you through each step of this very important process. For many of us, the purchase of a home is one of our largest investments and most important family and financial decision. Let Thomas use his 10 years of experience in the Chattanooga real estate market to give you the advantage you need when buying or selling a home. Buying a house? Thomas can help you navigate the emotional and somewhat anxious process of buying a home. For those of you who want to sell a house, Thomas uses his marketing and negotiating experience to help you sell your home for top dollar. Thomas is a local resident, raising his family here in Hamilton County. He knows the area very well. For many agents, real estate is a job. With Thomas DeMoss, it's a passion and what he loves to do. Call Thomas today for a no-obligation consultation. He makes the process as simple as possible. Call 423-364-0028 and visit his website, northriverpropertygroup.com.
Need a tiller to get things going for the spring? Spiff up your porch, maybe your deck? Come on by and get a pressure washer at Action Rental. Family in town, need some tables and chairs for an event? Come on by and see us, Action Rental. This is Dan at Action Rental on Lee Highway. Come by and see me. Action Rentals.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree. Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM, and 95.3 HD4. News, talk, sports. Nooga Radio. Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Tulis.
This is David Tulis. At noon, we're going to have a special report that explores the use of secret programs, the employment of secret programs against the people by the central government in Washington, the NSA, the CIA, including geoengineering, which is the use of, as reported by scientists, the use of coal fly ash dispersed in the millions of tons every year in the skies over cities like Chattanooga and over counties such as Hamilton, an area we have given extensive reporting on since 2014. I think maybe in the past 3 years we've been covering that. This is David Tulis, and as I said, we're going to have at noon a report from a former CIA agent that lays out what his understanding is of the expansive and amazing power of the national government in many areas that we would like to suggest are deleterious to you, damaging and dangerous to you, my listener, and to your family. It is something that we want to consider RIF, the reduction in force, from and the force being not manpower strictly, but the use of violence and violent mechanism. Just by the way, there is a work fair, a jobs fair at Fort Oglethorpe City Hall on May 16. It's for Nissan Brake, and it is looking in Rock Spring, Georgia, looking to hire 60 people. There are casting techs, machine operators, and workers who deal with industrial equipment maintenance. These are the kinds of jobs available at Nissan Brake. Again, that's a factory in Rock Spring, Georgia. 60 people are sought for employment May 16, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's May 16, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. If you know someone who might be interested, make sure you pass along word about that. You can find that in the Daily News Cycle if a website is needed for the details. That is at an event at Fort Oglethorpe City Hall. This is David Tulis. We're live on YouTube at the Hot News Talk radio channel, and also live on Facebook at Nooga Radio. And you can hear all of my show if you missed part of it and you think you might benefit from tuning into a part that you missed on the real radio. You can hear us at TuneIn Radio. Well, there on TuneIn Radio, the app on your smart device, it's always live whatever we have coming. If you want to see something that suddenly becomes archived the moment it's over, right? It goes into archive. You can hear it there on YouTube or on Facebook. Every segment on Facebook is a program. Have you been bothered by the problem with Facebook live video? I have. I like usually to use the horizontal format, and as the forums are full of complaints about the problem at Facebook right now, where you can only shoot vertical, even whichever way you have your camera pointing on your smart device, only vertical will play, and that's really not so nice. On Facebook right now, you've got a view of a whole neon lamp on top of my head, and you can see the front of my shirt all the way down to my belly button. It's just pointless, and I find it highly annoying. But we are grateful for technology, and want there to be the more use of technology to further liberty, to further prosperity. We argue for local economy, the free market. My name is David Tulis, and the idea of the national power being the enemy of the people is really something that's not new. And John Whitehead of the Rutherford Institute, the constitutional attorney, does good work of summarizing that. He has he's author of an important book that sort of looks at the rise of the police state and how we are to understand it. And I think it's good to understand these things. So, the reason I bring up, you might say, our good people, the good people, and how in many ways they seem like the enemy. The reason I call them the good people is I don't want you to hate them, right? I don't want you to obsess over them. If I call them names, then what happens is you, my listener, are not productive. What I want you to do is be productive locally, not think globally and act locally as the environmentalists do, but think locally and act locally. But I mentioned cyber warfare, terrorism, and biochemical attacks, the nuclear arms race. We mentioned these things done by the good people in Washington because we want to reduce their credit, right? We want to reduce, in your mind, the confidence you have implicitly in them. It's something that you can't really help. I can't help it either. There's a kind of hypnosis that takes place when you live in a great nation state such as ours, and you just tune in just for a minute, the news cycle about how important everything is in Washington. All these arguments back and forth about Comey and national security and the grave threat of North Korea, the grave threat of Russia. Of course, these are all just jokes, right? They're sort of marketing themselves to be important. And there is no threat from Russia to you or to Tennessee or to the United States. Russia is our ally, right? Russia is our friend. And North Korea just ignore North Korea. That would cause more offense than doing something, right? Ignoring North Korea and hoping it turns to the free market and turns away from being a unitary state with a unitary figurehead, right? The dictator. The United States is known for terrorist acts internally. Most terrorist incidents in the United States are caused by the government. They are caused by agents who are trying to lure some person who's not quite rabid enough as a Muslim prospective terrorist. So they're going to goad that man into taking some steps, right? And then you have the material aid charge. As far as the digital economy goes and the raids against it, such as we had in the recent malware scare, Reuters reported back in 2013 that even as the U.S. government confronts rival powers over widespread internet espionage, it has become the largest buyer in a burgeoning gray market where hackers and security firms sell tools for breaking into computers. So the United States is the slave trader, effectively. If that were the vice we were talking about, the U.S. Incorporated would be the trader. Washington is in effect encouraging hacking and failing to disclose to software companies and customers the vulnerabilities exploited by the purchased hacks. So it buys hacks, pays off people using borrowed money, of course, and then doesn't tell the potential victim about it. That's because U.S. intelligence and military agencies, Reuters reports, aren't buying the tools primarily to fend off attacks. Rather, they're using the tools to infiltrate computer networks overseas the story says, leaving behind spy programs and cyber weapons that can disrupt data and damage system. And this stockpile of weapons can steal financial account passwords, turn your iPhone into a listening device, or remember the Stuxnet, sabotage a nuclear facility. And the U.S. creates the enemies it needs to have. It creates them. And what do we do? How do we deal with that? Well, what we do is we have a lococentric outlook. And so if we have that lococentric outlook, which I think is in many ways borrows heavily from Christianity, right? If you have a Christian perspective or borrow from Christianity, not being a practitioner of that faith, you can borrow from the premises of Christianity and be better for it. That is part of my argument. That's also called common grace, the operation of common grace. The U.S. wants us cowering and afraid and willing to relinquish every last one of our freedoms, Whitehead says, in exchange for their phantom promises of security. And he gives a definition for the term blowback. Blowback is what happens when an American enterprise, an American misadventure overseas creates, let's say, new terrorists, right? We have terrorists that we create. We create the environment and the context for terrorist acts. Blowback is a term originating from the intelligence world, again, telling of unintended consequences, unwanted side effects, or suffered repercussions from a covert act. So a covert act does something, and then there are consequences that the country, the people of the country, reap. And the reaping is not that we're bombed by Muslim activists, right? The reaping is that we're surveyed by the good people, that we have all kinds of impediments to the free movement of ideas and product and people under the guise of commercial government. Yeah, John Whitehead's book is called Battlefield America: The War on the American People, and it sounds scary, but I think it's a true thing to be concerned about. And at noon today, we're going to have a program in which a CIA agent unveils at least some of the many programs that are part of that warfare against the American people. The greatest warfare, the greatest pretext for the abuse of the people and the offense against their liberties is the war on drugs. And Jeff Sessions, the Trump appointee for Attorney General, says he's going after the most serious crimes with high likelihood of conviction and long prison sentences. So the drug war is not going to end. It is not going to end yet, and I think we need to be grieved by that. It does need to stop. The country faces generally in the era of the end of centralization, the decline of centralization. We face a lot. We could call it disintegration. Okay, you can call it disintegration. Now that doesn't mean that bureaucracy suddenly shut down and the gal at the front desk there, if you go into that bureau, is not there to greet you. You can have disintegration with the purpose of an agency, the purpose of an organization. And because we are at the end of centralization and in the beginning now of its decline, we have, as Charles Hugh Smith points out in a recent essay at his very noted website of twominds.com, we have fragmentation, we have disintegration, and we have the loss of cohesion. And the blame for this process can go on, you could say free enterprise, and that is to say free enterprise that turns itself, it reorients itself in terms of the modern welfare, warfare, and regulatory state. Of course, the marketplace, we always have a marketplace. The question is it free or is it cartelized? Is it compartmentalized and owned by an elite few? That is the kind of economy that we have. We don't have a free market. And so what we have to pray for in the end is I don't think we should view the end of the country as a disaster. And here I probably would differ with Franklin Graham and probably many conservative people who think that the United States should last forever. Well, no, the United States is an experiment that has failed. It has failed. It cannot be restored. Though I say that on one hand, even though I would agree with Joel McDermott, the writer at the noted think tank in Atlanta, American Vision, that we can restore a lot. But again, that's outside the current forms that we have. The current forms of, you could say, Democratic Republican government that we have, which cannot be restored. That can't be restored, but some of the liberties can be over time. And the argument there is through local action and thinking and focusing lococentrically, thinking in terms of loving our neighbors, buying local, living local, and taking back the government, taking back the civil magistrate who has strayed from his very limited assignment. We have an unsustainable asymmetry in the national economy, Smith says, and the causes, there are forces that he looks at. One is globalization, and that's the free flow of capital and labor arbitrage, and that's the conversion of labor into a commodity. And look at these websites that commoditize labor and commoditize resumes and curriculum vitae, people who need work, and they're just turned into commodities and then swapped back and forth. Number two is nearly free money from the central bank for financiers and corporations, and what he calls pay-to-play democracy. We see that even with Trump. Trump has not escaped that paradigm. State-protected cartels that privatize gains and socialize losses. The whole economy has shifted to that kind of economy. And again, the operation is to privatize profit and to socialize, to spread across the taxpayers losses. That the whole economy just about is that way. These are dislocations that I think you can see in the innumerable help wanted signs here in the retail economy in Hickson and Red Bank, Ottawa, across Chattanooga. There is a way to connect what I'm saying with those phenomena. And then there's a fifth point, and that is a system stripped of what he calls self-correcting feedback and accountability. There are cycles of rising and falling, and we have he cites Smith cites a writer named Peter Turchin, who talks about 25-year cycles and 50-year cycles. And there are three forces in these cycles: oversupply of labor that suppresses real inflation-adjusted wages, and then an overproduction of parasitic elites, and then number three, a deterioration of central state finances. And that there you have over-indebtedness, you have decline in tax revenues, and here President Trump is proposing a massive tax cut to goose the economy as he sees it, and then an increase in state dependence and the fiscal burdens of war. And you have the social order is controlled by self-seeking parasites. It happened in the Soviet Union before it collapsed. Before the party recognized that it had to become more profitable and adopt the American system, which it did, of course. And it's still not really a free country in the Soviet Union. But we have an end of the era of privatization. I'm holding up for my viewer on YouTube and also on Facebook. There's a chart right here. See this chart? And it's an S. At the top of the S, it's an S on its side. And on the right-hand side is the peak, and it's already going down, right? You see the S there. The top is the maximum expansion of the theory of centralization, administrative and economic centralization, which we have. A great quote on the perils of centralization in national government and in a nationalized, you might say totalized economy, is from the 19th century French philosopher Lamennais, a Roman Catholic writer. And it was that centralization brings apoplexy to the center and paralysis at the extremities. And that's where we are now. Apoplexy at the center and paralysis at the extremities. That's one of my favorite quotes because it describes where we are. And in that quote, of course, you can see the way out. You can see the way toward local economy in Hamilton County, at Ottawa, Chattanooga, Red Bank, Saudi Daisy. There, if we understand this paradigm, we have to shift consciously away from the centralizing process, the centralizing traps. There are all kinds of traps, mostly connected with free money and regulation. If we stay outside these traps and don't get involved with those people at all, we are on our way, a slow way to restoration. Centralization starts at the bottom of this chart. There's an initial expansion, and then in the boost phase, which has been going on for the past 75 years, you have benefits, right? Centralized power. You have you can control things. You have capital. You have free money in the central bank, and the costs of centralization of government control are hidden. But in the declining phase where we are now, according to Charles Hugh Smith, the costs of centralization are becoming too great, and that would be corruption, rising prices, diminishing returns, cronyism, right? Cronyism, overreach, and the system just explodes. Centralized systems cease to function, and they become hollow shells. The structural failure of our political economic system, he says, quoting him, cannot be remedied by electing a new president or swapping failed political parties. The system is disintegrating, Charles Hugh Smith says, and slapping a reformist coat of paint over the dry rot cannot renew the structural timbers that have rotted to their very core. Identifying cycles can be a parlor game, he says, but there is no denying that we're deep into a disintegrative phase, right? A phase of disintegration that will come to a head probably, he says, between 2021 and 2029. Now, that's kind of a very general perspective there. But you can see in this phase the disaster in a county in Oregon. There's a farm called Azure Farms, and Sherman County on the 22nd of May, just a couple days from now, says it's gonna spray an organic farm, a 2,000-acre organic farm called Azure Farms, and it's gonna spray this whole farm because there's a weed control statute in that state. And Sherman County says, well, we've got to enforce the statute, and we're going to spray Roundup and other herbicides on this certified organic farm, and then get this, put a lien on the property so that we can pay for the dispersal, the chemicals and their dispersal expenses. And what's happened is that the morning glory, Canada thistle, and white top weeds are impossible to eradicate. They cover North America, and here one county is saying, we're going to destroy your farm because we have an obligation to enforce a statute against weeds. We're going to put Roundup on your whole farm. That is a picture of the end. Okay, when that happens, you know that we are at an end. That whole system is at an end. So what are you going to do? What are you, my listener, going to do here in Chattanooga and Helena County? What can we do now here? I'd like to suggest it's personal relationships, it's personal economics, it's buying local, it's believing in God, and it's repenting of our sins and caring for our neighbor as ourselves. David Tulis.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
When my brother and I opened the first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300-plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickston Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets.
He stole out so much cash, such a huge mountain of cash, that he's become a national star. Rick Davis. You know the story. Cash, 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 and more cash. People can't believe it. They want to see it. And now Rick Davis has a new TV show. National TV, USA and Canada. He's got the gold and silver, diamonds and rings. You get dizzy just thinking about it. Rick's selling. Rick's buying. Cash, 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 and more cash. And now a mountain of cash catching the Hollywood spotlight. You know where it is, Brainerd Road. Rick Davis, Gold and Diamonds. Cash, 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 and national TV cash. That's really big. Everyone wants to see it. Money flying out the door. Rick Davis is America's jeweler. It's better.